As you know, I recently went on vacation to the country where it all happens, Japan. Here's how my trip went down. We started our first full day in Yoyogi with a brisk walk to the Meiji Jingu shrine. After getting a little lost on the way to the shrine, we finally found our way and received some morning blessings. It was great because there were English instructions on how to properly pay respects. It was such a relaxing vibe, and on the way out we saw so many cute plants and bonsai tree displays. I mean, look at these. After this, we made our way to Shibuya and walked through the famous Shibuya crossing. It was still early, so the crossing wasn't as packed as it usually is. In this area, there was a huge screen that kept playing Ado and Yoasobi and other top hits. We had lunch at this really nice all-you-can-eat shabu place, and my goodness, this was our favorite meal. After lunch, we strolled through Shibuya. Unfortunately, couldn't see Hachiko because he was covered up, but nevertheless arrived at our destination, Shibuya Sky. If you've been to New York or Chicago or similar cities, you may have experienced something similar to this before. But seeing Shibuya from all the way up here was incredible. On our way to our next stop, we took a look through Tower Records, where I kept taking furious notes of new artists and songs I was seeing and hearing. The theme cafe we went to on this trip was a mini pig cafe, and it was absolutely adorable. You can see all these little piggies roaming about with this big guy chilling on the side. They were so cute. One of them climbed into my lap and fell asleep. I'm glad they were so comfortable with me, but I wonder what that implies. We strolled a bit through Harajuku. Honestly, we should have spent more time there, but we were on our way to our omakase sushi dinner. I've never had omakase before, and if you haven't, it's definitely worth a try at least once. Here's a look at some of our dishes. I didn't get them all because I got kinda drunk, so here's what I did record. The next day, we went to this very popular coffee shop on the way to the Tsukiji fish market. It was such a small and cozy shop, a bit of a wait, but this latte was very pretty. I'm jealous I can't do that. Afterward, we went onward to the market to grab a quick bite before the main event of the day, and there were so many good smells. The area was full of different shops and stalls vending all kinds of food items. It was so hard to try and choose what we wanted to eat, but after chatting with the cashier in beginner Japanese, I ended up getting a few skewers. I got eel liver, I think, and something else. After a few quick bites at the fish market, we walked over to the artsiest part of the trip, teamLab Planets. And if you don't know what this is, don't worry, I didn't either, but it's a really cool immersive art experience with several different exhibits. This light one was pretty trippy. It's basically a room with hanging lights that change according to a particular pattern and sequence. This room is lined with mirrors, so it actually looks like the room goes on forever with these gleaming lights. It's actually quite breathtaking. Another exhibit was filled with water and required you to step in and see all these beautiful lights being projected onto it, simulating fish and flowers. They told us that the program runs on an algorithm that makes it so there's never a repeating loop. Every second is brand new. Same thing goes for this room, where we sat in the center and watched this incredible projection of a universe filled with flower petals. It was kind of insane how in this room it looked like we were actually floating through this deep space. It was beautiful, but honestly a little nauseating after a while. All in all, it was pretty and pretty disorienting. The final exhibit was a room lined with mirrors, but these vines dropped from the ceiling with beautiful flowers. These vines would go up and down, so the room was always in motion, and the sun shining made this the perfect ending. From here, we hopped on a long train ride to Odaiba to head on over to DiverCity. If you know about DiverCity, you may already know where I'm headed, the Unicorn Gundam. The Unicorn is my absolute favorite Gundam, and I had to make sure I saw it while I was here. When we finally made it to my boy, I couldn't help but be filled with wonder. I love this thing. We went into DiverCity to enjoy a pretty fry-heavy lunch with pork katsu and karaage, and then we made our way through the mall to the Gundam Base. I always love coming to Gundam Base. To be able to see all these amazing model kits is not something you see just anywhere. They didn't have a huge display of insane custom scenes like they did the last time I was here, but they still had a wall of custom builds. As I was looking through, I realized we were cutting it close to the unicorn's transformation, and unfortunately we did end up missing it. I was pretty upset about this. I'd seen the transformation before, but I was really looking forward to seeing it again, but good thing our next stop was the Gundam factory in Yokohama. I've never been to the Gundam factory, and it has a really cool museum inside that details all the different mechanics that go into the life-size RX-78. It was awesome to see the realism of such a fantastical piece of machinery broken down for everyone to see. They had all these awesome functional displays, as well as this model of the actual Gundam. This UI looking thing was super cool as well. And then of course there was the main event, the Gundam itself. This experience was absolutely magical. There's a bit of a skit where the pilot is doing some tests with this new AI, and things start to get a bit funky until the pilot hears the voice of the first Gundam pilot, Amuro Ray. The AI possessed his spirit, and he shared with everyone a message for the future, which I couldn't really understand, but it was still amazing. It made me get over missing the unicorn pretty instantly. We strolled through Yokohama as the sun was slowly setting. It's such a different city vibe, much more chill and relaxed, perfect for a little stroll. Being next to the water made it feel even more relaxing. And look at all these boats. How awesome would it be to take one out for the day? Our next stop was the Cup Noodle Museum. This museum is dedicated to the world-changing food staple known as instant noodles, with a comprehensive history on its inception and its creator. There was a section for you to make your own cup noodle, but they ran out of tickets for this, so we didn't do it. Outside the museum, we had a lovely view of Yokohama as the sun was setting, and as we made our way back to the station, we had an even lovelier view from the aerial cable cars. And we had a bit of extra time before the night closed out, so we stopped by Akihabara. We planned to go the next day, but I really wanted to stop by earlier, and it was kind of on the way to the hotel. It was basically my preview to a lot of the shopping I would eventually do, and my goodness, it was amazing to see all of the Toku stuff on shelves that I would never usually see. I felt like a kid in a candy store with all these awesome figures and belts just tickling my sweet tooth. After an aggressive window shopping session, we went to this izakaya joint for dinner, and after walking just a bit more, I stopped by my favorite skewer place, and then we called it a night. The next day started out in Ueno, where we basically roamed all throughout Ueno Park to take in all the shrines and parky goodness. Ueno Park is actually huge, and in between a lot of the main attractions, there was these expansive groves of lily pad looking things that were just so pretty. We wanted to try and pay our respects to do whatever is customary to do at these things, but we didn't really know how, so we just clapped our hands together and bowed a bit and continued on our way. There was so much beautiful architecture, and this one coming up in particular with its golden doors was so breathtaking. It was amazing to see all these incredible pieces of culture so early in the morning. We took a bit of a break at this bench in front of this body of water where these fish came up to us and opened their mouths as if they wanted food. Sorry guys. We decided on a whim to stop by Ueno Zoo, and the first thing we did was check out the pandas, Xiao Xiao and Lele. This was actually really cool because they let you get pretty close to the pandas in alternating groups. The wait was a bit, but we were able to see these magnificent derps in all their glory. One of these pandas embarked on this ambitious climb, to which everyone was excited, and when it got to the top, it began to scratch its butt furiously. It was pretty amusing. We saw so many different animals there too, like penguins, flamingos, giraffes, and these adorable red pandas. We made our way to Akiba, but first stopped by Kikanbo ramen for a delicious bowl. Look at that color in that meat. It was mouth-watering. We finally came back to Akihabara, where I was most excited to be. There was a lot of anime merch to be had, of course, but I took special note of all the tokusatsu toys here. My goodness, as to be expected, it is a treasure trove here. Not just for the newer stuff, but places like Mandarake and some other small stores had some absolute gems. I wanted to buy so many things, but I ended up not buying much really because I got concerned about luggage space. But look at all this. It is heaven. And I did stop by Big Camera several times to check out their toy sections, and it really reminded me of when toy stores in the US used to actually be poppin'. After Akiba, we made our way to Ginza, where I hadn't been to before, but it was definitely more of a chic vibe since it's a popular high-end shopping area. This was fun because we stopped by a bakery and I had to help out a tourist here with my Japanese. Ginza also has a 12-floor Uniqlo with a cafe up top, so of course we went and checked out every floor. I have a newfound love for Uniqlo Airism shirts now. Dinner was in Shinjuku, where we went to this sushi place with basically no tourists and very little English. Here's a nigiri set that the chef curated, as well as this amazing chirashi bowl. We made our way through Shinjuku and stopped by a small bar in Golden Gai which didn't allow photos. It was Halloween, so here's an exia that I posted on that day. We sat down at Tokyo Kabukicho Tower, which had a huge floor of food, drinks, and entertainment. And on our way back, we stopped by that 3D cat thing, whatever this is called. The next day was the one that would prove to be the most challenging for me, that's right, Disney. I have a hard time standing and walking for extended periods of time, and if you've been to Tokyo Disneyland and or DisneySea, you know that the wait times here are usually quite long. But DisneySea is so impressively designed and very different from what we know. We had lunch in the Aladdin themed section, which reminds me of Kingdom Hearts, and the curry was actually really good. At Disneyland, we had the green alien dumplings, and then for dinner, this melon soda float and Baymax curry. And yes, Tokyo Disney unsurprisingly loves Baymax. The next day we were headed to Osaka, but before that we had this lovely udon meal. The noodles were wider and flatter and delicious. This yakimanju was pretty good too. On the Shinkansen, I got an unagi bento, which was really good as well. And after we got to the hotel, we made our way to Doutonburi Street to venture through a wide variety of street eats, like this wonderful takoyaki made right in front of us and at a rapid pace. Then of course we saw the Glico guy and took some fun photos. We continued our adventure and stopped by this matcha joint to get a matcha tiramisu and matcha parfait, and yes, you have to get matcha in Japan. After this, we made it to the Solaniwa Onsen. If you haven't done an onsen before, you absolutely have to. You of course have to get over being naked, but it's so normal and such an incredibly refreshing experience. In the morning, we hopped on another Shinkansen to head over to Kyoto. Now, Osaka is already more chill than Tokyo, but Kyoto is immaculate chill vibes. We walked through this lovely rustic town and through to the Arashiyama bamboo forest. It was nice to be surrounded by so much nature, and my neck hurt trying to see the top of these things. After this, we had brunch at this restaurant that served traditional breakfast meal sets, and it was pretty fantastic. After we got sustenance, we made our way up Monkey Mountain to hang out with some monkeys at the Arashiyama Monkey Park, Iwatayama. These guys were adorable, and there was a room to feed them, but we were always warned to never look directly at them, which is fine because you can instead look at this amazing view of Kyoto atop the mountain. On our way to dinner, we stopped by the new Nintendo store, which we didn't have reservations for, so we went straight to our yakiniku dinner. It was a bit challenging language-wise, but it was so delicious. It was all you can eat, so we ate all we could. On our way back though, we caught this group of singers busking in front of the station, and this one in particular was really good. I'm linking her info in the description, but here's a snippet of her wonderful voice. Back in Osaka, we went through the Kuromon Market to look at all the good eats. And look at all these strawberries though. There were so many seafood stalls too. I saw this one with these mini octopus sticks and I just had to have one for myself. Delicious. I loved looking at all the produce as well. Everything just looked so massive and vibrant. Obviously I wasn't going to take home a whole melon, but we got a melon juice from one of these stands and it was so fresh. We also got some dango on our way out to head over to Denden Town, which kind of feels like a pocket of Akihabara in Osaka. This is where I found Jungle. Jungle in the US doesn't have as much toku stuff, so I was blown away by how much they had here. You have no idea how tempted I was to buy everything, but I ended up leaving with a Kamen Rider John SH Figuarts. I wanted to get a Geats one, but the one I saw was used and the new one was so expensive. We also stopped by a Grand Mandarake, which was another treasure trove that I could only drool at. If I had unlimited luggage space, I would have copped all of this. The displays were baiting me with some new stuff and some old stuff that I wasn't able to get my hands on at the time, but I thought better of myself and moved on. Afterward, we stopped by this one store that had these awesome toku displays labeled the history of heroes. They had it for Rider and Sentai, and Ultra too, but for some reason I can't find the Ultra footage, so here's the other two. We made our way to Osaka Shinsenkai, where we had a kushikatsu meal. I had to drink both of these beers because it was a 1 drink per person minimum. Our next stop was the Osaka Aquarium, and let me tell you, I do not like aquariums. I actually have a pretty big fear of the ocean, so being here was a bit terrifying. But it was a breathtaking experience to see all this aquatic life. I'm told that this aquarium has the most impressive whale shark. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly, but it is massive. The seals were so fun too. This floaty one didn't really want to have much to do with us though, but look at it go. We decided to conclude our last night in Doutonburi before heading back for the night. Our flight home was in the evening, so we lugged our suitcases to have lunch at this gyukatsu place, which was wonderfully delicious. If you haven't had gyukatsu before, Gyukatsu Motomura is fantastic. We stopped by Big Camera one more time so I could soak in the Toku toy displays, and when I finally came to terms that I couldn't fit anything else in my case, we hopped on the Shinkansen back to Tokyo to go to the airport. Cue the sad music. We made it to the airport where we had our last meal of sukemen and gyoza, which tasted even more delicious being seasoned by my tears, and then we left. I'm sure I don't have to convince any of you that Japan is a magical experience. There's so much to see and do, especially if you have any sort of liking towards Japanese products and culture, you have to go and see it for yourself. If you don't know any Japanese, that's okay, but if you do or you're studying, you'll never find a better place to practice. Japan has a firm hold on my heart, and I can't wait until the next time I go back.